Good afternoon, folks. How y'all doing? I was going to try something different in that I thought maybe I could put the chat up on full screen, but doesn't look like it's quite what I wanted. I think it's showing who's chatting, but I'm not seeing the name. I'm not seeing what you guys are typing. So that's a little bit annoying. So I guess I will have to investigate that further and find out why. But I thought, like, if some people are watching on like televisions or something like that, it might be super cool to have the chat in on the screen. So yeah, hello guys, good afternoon, welcome to the stream as always. Thanks for tuning in. We got a bunch of people in here: Redblade, Alucard, Hylian Phoenix, Jay, Thomas, Julian, Miles, Bob, and Adam. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, thank you very much on this. Congratulations for 3,000 subscribers. Just hit that on Friday, I think. And yeah, I mean, it's ticking over nicely. I'm really disappointed. I really hoped that I could have the chat showing in this wasted space in the top left-hand corner. I was like, I'm going to fill that up with the chat. Apparently, I am not doing something right. Okay, so maybe on a test stream. Nice. Maybe on my test stream we will aim to do something up in that top right hand corner. Okay, so yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. I'm doing very well, thank you. I hope you guys are all well. I don't know if any of you guys tuned in a little bit last night, but I was just previewing off the fact that last night we were looking at another super heavy tank. Let me just move my camera here a second. And yeah, just made a start on this guy last night because you can never have enough super heavy tanks in your list, right? This took me like 2 hours to get like base coats on it. Someone was like, you really need to get an airbrush. I probably agree with that. But I don't have any place to set that up currently. So thanks, Elder. Really appreciate it. So yeah, today, as always, we got 5 different army lists to look at, and I know that there's been like an FAQ drop this week with some rule changes. Just, I guess, some slight rule changes, some clarifications. So I think I might do a small video on that, just in case there still is any questions, and I guess if there's any comments, people can put them in there. But I think any of the questions that we had or that we discussed on the stream have now been clarified in the FAQ. I can't think of any rules or questions that anyone still has that maybe weren't clarified in the FAQ, but I guess if you have any questions that you were still desperate to know the answer for, you could put them into the chat, and we could certainly have a think about them or discuss how we are where we are with those. So yeah, I mean, as always on this show, we got 5 different lists to look at. These are our lists for this week. So it's Alucard, Eric, JMad, Jay Barnaby, and Psyduck. And so we'll run through each of these lists and we'll score them out of 50 points. And then, I mean, we can make some suggestions. Different people can make suggestions in the chat. That's always appreciated. And then next week, because I guess we're sort of like, we get quite a lot of list submissions at the moment. So next week we've got Anthony, D King, Emmanuel, James, and my side. Savage Echoes was FAQ'd. It was in the Space Marine FAQ, and I believe now it does indeed give you that one additional attack. You need to. There was a section in the space. This is why I'm going to make a video on it, Adam. But do you know, I pulled up the Warhammer the Warhammer community site before this for the stream, so that like I had it there just in case someone asked. But yeah, Savage, it was in this section here in the Space Marine book that basically said, like, in each of the Space Marine Codex supplements you'll find a detachment ability that confers additional bonuses to unit with a combat doctrine. Whenever a rule allows a unit to gain the bonus of a particular doctrine, even though it's not active for the rest of your army, then whilst that rule applies to your unit, that unit will also gain the ability from any such detachment ability. So I guess while you're in Assault Doctrine from the I may have called you Jay Barnaby. Sorry, Banbury. English is definitely not my strong point. So I believe this rule now, or this section FAQs the Blood Chalice rule. So because you're in Assault Doctrine, then you would get your additional attacks from Savage Echoes. So yeah, this is why I'm going to do a quick video on this, just to clear that up. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit strange that it's in the other book, but the thing it mentions here, actually, adaptive strategy on page 104 of the Space Marine book, and I didn't actually look at that yet, but I'm pretty sure adaptive strategy is the one where you put your army to have every doctrine. Adaptive strategy. Use this stratagem in your command phase. Let's have a read of it. Use the stratagem in your command phase. If a chapter warlord from your army is on the battlefield and combat doctrine is active for your army, select one core unit from your army that is on the battlefield until the start of your next command phase. Each time this model makes an attack, the Devastator Doctrine, Tactical Doctrine, and Assault Doctrine are considered to be active for that unit. So I guess you could pay 2 CP on any core unit at any point during the game now to basically give them Savage Echoes, right? So like any unit that has the core, so you could do this with or without having the Sanguinary Priest. So there is ways to do that now, which is pretty cool. 2 CP sounds pretty expensive for +1 attacks, but I mean it would include the -1 AP as well. And I guess on like a big unit of Death Company or Sanguinary Guard, maybe it could be worth paying the 2 CP. Although I hate the Sanguiner, I don't actually agree with the FAQ to his Miraculous Saviour. It should work on turn 1, but Games Workshop say no turn 2 onwards. I mean, Highland, that kind of makes sense to me. It tends to be turn 2 for Deep Strike, right? So, I mean, drop pods are kind of the only exception. Good evening, Robert. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Mark. Hey, Blood Angel Commander. I expect it's in the Chaos Space Marines because it's... Oh, Codex Space Marines, sorry. Because it's relevant to everybody, not just Blood Angels. Yeah, it is part of the Codex Space Marines. CSM usually means Chaos Space Marines, but yeah, that's... I mean, I guess I should have figured that out. So, yeah, so we're going to start with Alucard's list today, and I guess we will be taking questions in chat as always, and if you guys do enjoy the stream at any point, please consider hitting that like button. I did mention in my video, like on Friday, that like comments and likes help the channel out so much. And Friday's video, which I thought wouldn't do that well because I thought like the chapter champion is a niche pick, right? I guess like he's a 70-point model and like loads of people aren't going to run him. Apparently, it was one of my best videos ever just because you guys gave it so many likes and comments, and I guess. We kind of blown up with like 100 subscribers in 2 days or something, so much appreciated. Not very miraculous if he turns up late to the party, but he doesn't turn up that late. Like turn 2, I mean, how many enemies are getting an engagement range with you in turn 1, Phoenix? Right? Like, I mean, really? Like, surely that's not. I mean, like, if enemies are getting engagement range with you in turn 1, and bear in mind, you can only heroically intervene on the opponent's turn, right? You can't heroically intervene on your own turn. Then, if the enemies are managing to charge you in turn 1, then, I mean, I guess if you've pushed, like, a Forlorn Fury Death Company up the board, then I could understand why you'd maybe want them to join them in turn 1. But, you know, that's the sad thing about the Forlorn Fury change. Like, I was so excited that finally the Death Company don't need to be left all on their own without any character support, but finally it's gone back to, guess what, the Death Company will be left on their own without character support. I found that adaptive strategies works well with Terminators, that it can benefit from all 3 heavy tactical... That's a very good point, Robert. I guess if you drop down Terminators with like Cyclone Missile Launchers or Assault Cannons, that is pretty cool. Sanguiner should never be able to turn up in turn 1 as a reinforcement unit. I mean, yeah, I mean that is how it works. I did have a question, and maybe one of you guys in chat could answer it for me. And my question was about Forlorn Fury and the change to it. And let me just quickly bring it up. Right. So Forlorn Fury, here it is. Use the stratagem at the beginning of the battle round before the first turn. Select one Death Company unit from your army. That unit can make a normal move of up to 12 inches as if it were your movement phase, but must end that move more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. If both players have units that can move before the first turn begins, then the player who's taking the first turn moves their units first. If that unit contains a Dreadnought model, or if it contains 6 or more models, it costs 2 CP, otherwise it's 1 CP, right? So it says a normal move. So, like, I actually need to go and look at the actual rulebook for, like, what is classed as a normal move? Like, where does it actually call out, like, a quote-unquote normal move? Because, like, is a normal move just your base move, like, with no advance? Yeah, okay, so yeah, it calls it out here. Normal move. When a unit makes a normal move, each model may move inches equal to or less than their move characteristics is shown on the data sheet. No model can be moved within engagement range. So for like your, is it just me, or does this seem really shit then for Death Company intercessors, and that they can just move 6 inches? Like, if you have a squad of 10 or 5 or more, I guess, Death Company intercessors, or would it be 6 or more? Then you just, who's going to pay 2 CP to move a squad of Death Company intercessors 6 inches? Like, that just seems to me like that is never going to happen. I liked Forlorn Fury, where last edition you got to use your move and you could advance as well, but now just a normal move is a bit terrible, I suppose. With, you know, like, if you're not running jump pack units, then I guess Forlorn Fury is. I guess it's a normal move has been clarified a lot in the new FAQ for core book. Yeah, I didn't realise that it had actually been called out normal move. I guess that's the problem when you play from edition to edition. Maybe you don't catch all those things. Yeah, it's terrible for foot-slogging Death Company. Alright, just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so any other questions about the new rules, fire them in the chat. And yeah, let's start with Alucard's list then. Alright, so it is updated. It is on Alucard. And yeah, okay, so let me turn it on so you can see the list. And as always, I guess how I like to do this is I like to put the lists into the comments on the YouTube video. I should have probably done that before the stream started, but I'll do it as we're working through it. And that way, if anyone wants to follow on along with the lists, then actually, I don't think you can't put comments on while the stream's going. Is that what? Give me 1 second to double check that. I think this is what I did wrong a couple of weeks ago. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Well, when the live stream is going, you can't add comments. That's really annoying. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll post up the lists at the end of the stream, and then I guess if you need to follow back, you can. I wouldn't say it's good for a Byte HQ as he's going alone then, and it's not a cheap stratagem. I mean, I guess Forlorn Fury is any Death Company unit. Yeah, so you could use it on a biker, but yeah, it's not really that useful. Can a captain take the Relic Blade and Mastercraft it if he takes the Artisan of War? Yeah, that's a confusing part of the relic. Like, a Relic Blade, like the actual weapon that you pay points for, isn't classed as a relic. So yes, you can Mastercraft a Relic Blade. I mean, at that point, is that not just a Hammer of Baal? Because the Hammer of Baal is just a Thunder Hammer with 3 damage, -3. And a Relic Blade is... A Relic Blade is +2 damage, and it's also -3. So yeah, I mean, I think it just makes it exactly the same as the Hammer of Baal, right? So you could do it. You could use a model with a Thunder Hammer, or you could use a model with a Relic Blade. There would be no difference. So a Mastercrafted Relic Blade. Yeah, Mastercrafted Relic Blade is the exact same profile as the Hammer of Baal. Okay. So, hello Commander, with Indomitus Crusade I started Blood Angels and And now with the Codex, I come up with a brand new list. What's the battle plan? Incursors to advance first turn to midfield objectives, flank while infiltrators can camp the backfield objectives or secure deep strike zones. Dante for the +1 CP and his buffs, charging with the Sanguinary Guard or the Death Company with the Sanguinary Priest in the back with the Teeth of Terra. He's a butcher as well. Also, Mephiston can buff units with the Shield of Sanguinius quite well. At last, the Ancient for Obsec and reroll charges. Also, his banner can be interesting. Unfortunately, I got to spare some points on Death Company, just 2 hammers and a fist and not 3 hammers to put the Melter and Heavy Flamer under the Death Company Dread. I hope to get a new view on my idea for my list. Okay, a little bit of broken English there, but that's fine. Thanks for commenting it. The Emperor protects. The Emperor does indeed protect, brother. So, alright, so we're looking at 2,000 point list. So that's great. That's what we like to look at. And we start with 1 HQ, and it's Mephiston, Smite, Wings of Sanguinius, Quickening, and Shield of Sanguinius. Pretty solid choices for Mephiston. Hard to argue with any of them. I mean, I did talk a little bit. I did talk a little bit at length how currently I prefer Librarian Dreadnought to Mephiston, but I mean Mephiston's fine. He can still do work. The Librarian Dread is going to be more useful against killing vehicles. Mephiston's going to be more useful against killing infantry. I just feel like that's where they've ended up landing in the new edition. Commander Dante, who actually now this needs to be heroic bearing. He no longer has Speed of the Primarch. And Commander Dante is generally an okay pick, but the Bike Captain or the Bike Chapter Master is stronger. He is more survivable. He can do just as much damage. And I guess, like, if you haven't seen my video on Commander Dante and the Bike Chapter Master, then you should probably check it out. Like, I don't dislike Dante, and he does have, you know, like you said, he does bring 1 CP to the table. He is -1 to hit at all times, but once hit, he's generally not that survivable against. I suppose it's in the meta I play, and there's a lot of multi-meltas, and he will, he can die from a single shot from a multi-melta, which is a real problem for me. We have a Sanguinary Priest who is got the Chainsword and the Teeth of Terra. I mean, if you're running the Sanguinary Priest as your HQ like this, you should probably make him your Warlord and give him Selfless Healer, so that you can do the Resurrection shenanigans. Heresy to remove Dante from list. Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of flack last night on the Facebook group for posting up. Did you see that picture I posted last night? Of like how it started, how it's going. Because people were very upset about this picture. They were like, it's not Blood Angels if you run them on a bike. And I was like, yeah, whatever. These guys are just so much better than these guys right now. It's just the way it works. I mean, sure, they don't have the fly keyword, but I mean, it's pretty. I mean, there's ways you can play your list, so you don't need to worry about that. So 2 squads of Incursors and an Infiltrator squad. Generally, very solid troop choices. I like this a lot. I got no problem with this. And I think what you said, having the Incursors deployed forward, having the Infiltrators deployed back, it seems like a very solid list choice. Yeah, I mean, you can see there, I'm still painting and converting all my Chapter Master, whatever we call them, on the bikes, but yeah, they're generally very, very strong right now. Hopefully they don't get nerfed by the time this lockdown ends and we can actually play again. So this is a 5-man squad of Blade Guard vets. So I like Blade Guard vets a lot. Like, I was talking to you a little bit last night on the stream saying that, like, Blade Guard vets are essentially Sanguinary Guard with an extra wound and a 4+ invulnerable save, but they essentially lose, they lose 1 shot from their bolt gun, and they lose the 12-inch move. So if you can get them where they need to be on the battlefield, then Blade Guard vets are a great unit. Hey guys, I'm new to the hobby, bought Indomitus and a box of regular Intercessors. What's the best way to expand for Blood Angels? I'm looking at that Librarian Dreadnought and Sanguinary Guard boxes. Yeah, Kevin, welcome to the channel. I actually did a video on precisely that, how to expand from Indomitus. It's on this channel. If you search Indomitus, if you search the channel for Indomitus plus building your first army list or something, I give you a very good breakdown of all the units. It's about an hour long, but if you've got an hour, check it out. It'll direct you to buy exactly what you need to buy, Kevin. But yeah, what you're seeing there, Librarian, Dreadnought, Sangre Guard, generally pretty decent. Then there's a big squad of Death Company. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Death Company, 2 Thunder Hammers, and a Power Fist. Hold on. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't count. That is 10 Death Company. I thought the points cost looked wrong. 10 Death Company, 2 Thunder Hammers, and a Power Fist. I mean, this is generally pretty good, right? I think if I was running 10 Death Company, I'd run 2 Thunder Hammers. Maybe 3. Some people like 3. But yeah, it's a good breakdown for Death Company. It can do a lot of work. And Refusal for Death stratagem on the Death Company is actually pretty good as well. Yeah, I mean, people should be free to play Mark how they want to play. I guess, like, I'm a bit of a power gamer in that I like to win games, and the captains on the bikes and the chaplains on the bikes have been winning me games, so sure. I mean, like, I showed in the photo that I have all those characters, right? Like, these characters are mine. That is my models, that is my painting, because I showed you this unique guy, like, last week on stream, right? He was like the most converted model that I've ever made. So, I mean, I've bought all the characters and I have them all ready tabletop quality. I've given myself more work by doing these bike guys, but I mean, it just is the way it goes. We then have the Sangre Ancient with the Icon of the Angel for the reroll charges, the Rights of War to grant Obsec within, I think it's Obsec within 6 inches of him, right? I haven't actually ever run Rights of War myself. I've looked at it a few times and thought it looked pretty cool, but I haven't run it. Yeah, it's Obsec, core and character units within 6 get Obsec. We then have 1 Sangre Guard with 2, 4, 6, 8 Sangre Guards, bolters and swords. Generally that's fine. And then fast Outriders. So I guess these guys just did get a 5-point bump in points. So this list is kind of a tiny bit out of date. And I guess your Eradicators did get a 5-point bump in points as well. So I guess you're kind of a few points over. But we won't penalise you. We'll just work out the list as is. And then, yeah, I mean, you'll have to tweak it a little bit just to fit in the new points anyway. It's not Blood Angels if they don't have a bike. I don't think there's anything in the lower rituals, or am I missing something? I think people are basically just saying that Blood Angels are typically your jump pack captain / army, and like up until recently, that's how I've run them. And I mean, I guess that's how a lot of people run them. But like, if you've looked at the math like we have on this channel, and we've decided that those bike captains are really hard to argue with, and that they do so much damage, they're so survivable, and there's a lot of options for them, and you want to run a bike captain, then I say run a bike captain. I mean, like, if people want to flame me for that, then I guess they're going to flame me. Good morning from Western Canada. Hey, Carrie. Proves that the Blood Angels Codex has not made it thematic enough for us to use jump packs. You should have had some further buffs. I mean, that's very true, Adam. You know, like, if we'd kept the ability to do, like, the 3d6 charge from Deep Strike, then maybe we would have like put more weight on our Blood Angels, our jump pack units, right? Mark says Blood Angels lower wise prefer jump packs because they fly like Sanguinius did, or as close as they'll ever get. Yeah, that's very true. I understand that, but I also want to give him the AA. Jonathan, I missed. You want to give what the AA? Sorry. That. You want to give him some other sort of a relic. Yeah, then that's fine. Then you can mastercraft your weapon, no problem. I was saying that to disparage you, Blood Angels Commander, but mainly those who might seriously give anyone grief for what they choose to play with. Yeah. I'm painting 15 Reavers for 10th edition. I mean, you're bold painting 15 Reavers. I have 5 of them painted, and they have been on the table once in 9th edition in about 70 games. Are those points right on the Death Company? Yeah, they're 25 points per model. The Power Fist, I believe, is 10, and the Thunder Hammers are 15. The Death Company Thunder Hammers cost 20 on Death Company Intercessors, but they're 15 on the vanilla guys. I mean, it's a bit random, Homer, that the Thunder Hammers cost different on almost every character this edition, but I mean, that's how they've done it, I guess. Okay. What do you think about Vanguard Veteran with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields? I bought a mixed lot with him in it. I think it's great. I actually want to buy another squad of Vanguard veterans and build 2 or 3 with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, just because, like sometimes you're right there on your 2,000 points and you want to mix and match a little bit. Why do you think it's wrong? I think they're 250, right? 25 points per model. I'm assuming that he's got jump packs on them, so it's 25 points per model, and then 30 more for these Thunderhammers. That would make it 280, and then 10 more for this Power Fist, so 290. Okay, so our troop choices are generally very good. Our HQ choices are fine. Maybe a Librarian Dreadnought would be a little bit stronger, and maybe a Bike Chapter Master would be a little bit stronger, but these are fine choices. The 5-man squad of Blade Guard, and also maybe you want to make sure that you have picked a Selfless Healer for this Priest, otherwise I just feel like the Priest is a lot better if you pick Selfless Healer. Quite a strong Death Company. You've got the Death Company Dreadnought in there with the Furioso Fist. I think I missed that when I was talking through it in the first time. You've got your Blade Guard Veterans, you've got your small Sanguinary Guard, you've got Outriders and Eradicators. Okay. Yeah, it's so weird, Homer, that on every different unit, everything is costing different. It's hard to keep up a little bit. So, objective holding an OBSEC, I think we could even maybe push, we're doing scores out of 10 now. So I think it's like a 9. Like, your 3 troop choices are really solid. You actually have Rites of War, but you put Rites of War on the Banner Bearer. I mean, maybe it's a 9.5. I mean, the Banner Bearer we with Sanguinary Guard, who we know are a great unit, but at the same time they're not the most survivable unit. But I mean, I guess they could be with the Death Company as well. So, yeah, I mean, objective holding seems like it would be somewhere around a 9 level. To kill, you don't have much in terms of shooting at all. You do have a bunch of chain swords, so they can screen out, or they can deal with horde units. But in terms of like shifting units off the boards with shooting, I feel like you're very limited. I like a little bit of shooting, especially, like if the enemy's going to put chaff in your way that you're going to have to deal with. So maybe it's like an 8.5 for clear. I mean, you can clear units effectively with the Death Company. You can clear them with Outriders. I mean, you could clear them with Eradicators, but you really don't want to be wasting those Melta Rifle shots on those. But overall, I mean, that seems fine. Anti-vehicle monsters. So we talked a little bit last week about how Dreadnoughts, and I guess Death Guard, are also going to be really problematic with their -1 damage against all sources. So 2 damage weapons are going to take a huge nerf against Death Guard. And they already take a huge nerf against any sort of Dreadnoughts, right? So your Sanguinary Guard could have some problems. You do have a couple of Thunderhammers in here. Your Blade Guard wouldn't do that well. This Dreadnought would do okay, but I mean, it's a slow Dreadnought that can be shot before it gets to where it needs to be. Dante again is going to be very weak against anything with that -1 damage, like Duty Eternal on him as well. So I mean, I guess you might have some problems against those army lists, but generally, I think you're having those couple of Thunderhammers will help, and yeah, I mean, I just haven't had great results personally with the Death Company Dreadnought. He has 8 attacks and he hits on 3s, so he's fine. But I guess you're going to have to drop some points as well. But overall, I mean, the strategy seems okay. The one squad of Eradicators, I like to have a little bit more shooting than that. I don't know if the Sanguinary Ancient is going to add you a huge amount of value. I guess he's there so you get the reroll charges when you drop down from Deep Strike, but yeah, I'm wondering if there's another way you could do that, because he is a very expensive point model. He's the equivalent of 4 Sanguinary Guard units. Of course, I understand this list was made pre-FAQ, but I'm not sure of the value of more than 1 Death Company unit, as it can only be 4-1 Fury. Worse, perhaps drop the Dread for Plasma Inceptors or Redemptor. Yeah, maybe that would be a good call. You could probably drop this Death Company Dread and pick up a Redemptor Dreadnought, drop a couple of regular Death Company Marines or something. I feel like a Redemptor Dreadnought would just give you a little bit more. You wouldn't be so hemmed on, like, you know, like everything in this list is close combat, like 90% of it. The only thing that really isn't is your Eradicators. If the enemy has good screening, if the terrain doesn't work to your advantage, you could have some problems that way. Your mobility, though, I guess the mobility I think is generally pretty good. I mean, the Blade Guard can't be mobile, and this other Dreadnought can't be mobile, and I don't really think your Eradicators care about being mobile, but, you know, all your HQs are mobile. You took wings on Mephiston, obviously. The Outriders, the Sanguinary Guard, the regular Death Company. So I think mobility is probably generally quite decent. It's not the most mobile list that I've seen, but overall it's scored pretty well. Or it's balanced pretty well, rather. And then, yeah, the one thing that I want to say is I think a list like this could work. I had a lot of problems at the beginning of 9th edition running lists like this, right? Like lists that just had no firepower or like every unit here almost like hinges on the charge being successful, right? So like I'm sure you've been in games where every single, like you get the odd game where you have 6 units at a reasonable distance and you fail all 6 charges, you know? That does happen, and when something like that happens, if your whole army is needing to make charges, which this army pretty much is, and you fail some of them, you know, maybe it can kind of ruin your game, I guess, right? So I would like to see a little bit more balance, but I am a little bit more, like, I do lean a bit more on shooting than some of the other Blood Angels players that I see creating lists. So maybe like your specialization, I think I would just put down a 10. So sorry, an 8 out of 10. So I think it's a solid enough score. Like, I think this list can do work. I think this list can probably get you wins. I think there is some tweaks to be done to it, and I'm not sure just how effective the Death Company Dreadnought is right now. I think if you're running the Death Company Dreadnought and, you know, like, so the Death Company Dreadnought plus the Blade Guard, that's 300 points. They both kind of do the same thing, right? They both have to walk up to the middle of the battlefield. And in doing so, like, is there a better option? Because obviously they don't really shoot at all. Maybe like one Meltagun shot or something from the Death Company Dread, and even then he's only, you know, like one single Meltagun shot's not going to do that much. And then I think, yeah, you mentioned in the chat that you knew about the Bite Captain being a little bit stronger, maybe making sure this guy is a selfless healer. Plasma Inceptors to accompany Dante is a good shout instead of the DC Dread, but DC Dread in Reserve is nice. Yeah, I mean, DC Dread in Reserve last edition, where you could add 2 to the charge with the Magna Grapple, was huge. I'm not so hot on it right now, this edition. Plus, the problem I have with the DC Dread this edition is everybody's running so many multi-meltas, right? It's a DC Dread is not that survivable, you know, it has no invulnerable save. So a couple of multi-melta hits could kill it, and, you know, you wouldn't even get a save. I mean, you'd be forced straight onto your Feel No Pain, and if you're having to roll like 8 Feel No Pains, you can be in a very bad spot very quickly with that Dread. And maybe take the Ancient, and maybe make the Ancient a chaplain on a bike rather than the actual Ancient. Yeah, I mean, that if you need a character to carry Icon of the Angel. I think the reason that you've probably got Icon of the Angel here is because you're wanting to deep strike and have Icon of the Angel. But you could do that by giving the Priest Icon of the Angel. I mean, the Teeth of Terra is fine enough on the Priest, but I mean, I guess the way I see it is you've got 310 points here, plus another 310 plus like another 125, so 435 points that might be better suited. But I mean, some people will swear behind a list like this with the Sanguinary Ancient to give your. I think the reason people think the Sanguinary Ancient is so good is the Wrath of Baal. So if you're not taking the Wrath of Baal on him, then I'd probably argue that like he isn't worth the points you're going to pay for him. Like 4 more Sanguinary Guard, or like I guess you could get like 4 Vanguard Veterans with a couple with Power Fists or something would just be able to do a lot more work than this Sangreal Ancient. And I mean, the Sangreal Ancient is giving you the Rites of War, so maybe if you were able to replace this Dante with your bike character, then you could give your bike chapter master the Rites of War. So not a bad list, Alucard, and I think that's a reasonable score. But like I said, I think this list could do decently. Like, I think you could win some games with it, and yeah, like I generally don't really have any sort of problem with this list. But at the same time, like, I just try and make sure that my lists don't ever back me into a corner where like everything a lot in this list will a lot of it will depend on if you make those charges. And then I guess the one thing to say is, like, if you don't make those charges, what happens, you know? And I play against a lot of different armies, and one of the armies that I come up against a lot is Iron Hands. And Iron Hands are notoriously good at shooting. They're notoriously difficult to get into combat with, and you can take heavy losses getting into combat because they have that way to Overwatch on 4s. So, like, if you think of a Leviathan Dreadnought, and it can Overwatch on 4s, and it's got like 16 Storm Cannon shots and, like, I don't know, is it like 8 Volkite Cavalier shots? So, I mean, you could lose like half your Sangreal Guard or more against like a Leviathan Dreadnought that an Iron Hands player has. And when I think of how strong the Iron Hands are at shooting, when I have a list that requires 100% on all my damage to come from close combat, it just, you know, although I don't play Iron Hands all the time, I'm always trying to think of the goal when making an army list is so that it can fight everybody, right? Like, you don't want to tailor so that you can just beat Iron Hands, for example. But if you make this list and it's going to do amazing against 2 or 3 factions, but then it's going to fall flat on its face against Iron Hands, then, like, the way I see it is that's a problem, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you run a Leviathan Dreadnought and you use that over the Sangreal Ancient, I mean, maybe take a Leviathan Dreadnought instead of the 2 squads here, or the Sangreal Ancient and the Death Company Dreadnought, get rid of that. You could easily fit a Leviathan Dreadnought in there. And the Leviathan does decent shooting, and he can be a menace, and he will soak up a ton of fire as well, because the enemies will want to bring him down. So yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting one as well. Greetings, Castlin, thanks for tuning in. And hey, Big Chief, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you guys today. That's why my combat heavy list runs Wiserator, Jumpback Chaplains with Canticle of Hate and Icon of the Angel. But yeah, you need ways to deal with screens. Yeah, I mean, if you had a Leviathan Dreadnought with those new Volkite cannons and like a Storm Cannon, you know, like if the enemy's got like some useless screens in the way, that would be able to at least give you like 16 shots against them, hitting on 3s. So they all do 2 damage a pop as well. So you could definitely clear out like 8 to 10 2 damage models in a single turn with a Leviathan well placed. And that sometimes just opens up the way for your Sangreal Guard or another unit to make those key charges, or something like your Outriders as well. So, alright, I hope that helps. We're going to jump straight into the next one, and this next list is submitted by Eric, and I don't think I'm going to try and pronounce your last name, Eric, if you are here in the chat today. Salsk. Maybe you pronounce it wrong, but that's fine. Alright, so this is another battalion. 2,000 points again, and I think this list is made from the app, right? This is the format that the app spits out, the new Games Workshop app. Greetings, Northern, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Oh, you're welcome, Alucard. I hope that was useful. If you want to come back in a few weeks' time with another list, or make a new list and run it a couple of times, and let me know how you get on in the comments or the Facebook group, that's cool as well. I'm always happy to look at someone's list again for a second time. So this one has a captain, Thunderhammer Jump Pack Storm Shield, Gift of Foresight, Mastercrafted Weapon, and Relic of the Chapter. This is pretty aggressive here, right? Taking the 4 damage Thunderhammer and just assuming that taking the 4 damage Thunderhammer with -1 to hit. I do still, every time I see this now, I just prefer the Bite Captain because he's 10 points less and he gets more wounds and he gets more toughness. And yeah, I mean, it's the toughness 5 and 6 that really make the big difference on these Bite Captains. But yeah, or the Bite Captain, the Chapter Master. We have Librarian Dreadnought, upgraded Chief Librarian, and he has Unleash Rage and Wings of Sanguinius. And if he's Chief Librarian, then he has +1 power as well. If that was me, I would probably take Quickening. But I guess up to you what you do take, Eric. And then we have the Sanguinary Priest, who's the Chief Apothecary with the Selfless Healer. Teeth of Terra seems to be a staple for these new ones. Yeah, I mean, I like how the new app spits the lists out. They're nice and easy to read, right? Like, it's not very wordy at all. I haven't paid for the app myself, actually, though. Like, I'm still just making my lists on Excel. Alright, and then we've got the sort of standard here, which is your 2 Incursor squads and your 1 Infiltrator squad. This list actually takes the Helix Gauntlet to give that Infiltrator squad the ability to ignore the first damage that they take each turn, which I actually think is pretty cool. Like, if you had 10 points at the end and you wanted to fill it, what is it? Helix Gauntlet. Once per turn, the first time a saving throw is failed for the Bearer's unit, the damage characteristic of the attack is changed to 0. It's pretty cool, the Helix Gauntlet, right? Like, 10 points. And I mean, like, if these guys are going to stay in cover and survive for 2 or 3 turns, or hell, even survive the whole game, then this Helix Gauntlet can actually be pretty valuable. The problem is, usually if I've got 10 points, I try to fit in, like, an extra power weapon or a Thunderhammer. But I can totally see the value of the Helix Gauntlet, and it'll let you really hold on to a backfield objective, or or just generally make that Infiltrator squad a bit more difficult to kill. And they may have to shoot an extra unit at each turn, and it's pretty useful. We then have a 5-man Blade Guard squad with a Judicar, so I guess these guys will probably be like foot slogging through the middle of the battlefield. The Relic Contemptor Dreadnought with 2 Twin Las Cannons and the Cyclone Missile Launcher. This is ballsy, right? This is a lot of points. 215 points for a model with 9 wounds, and just, I think it's the Relic Contemptor is now just a 3+5++. There's no feel no pain on it anymore. And I want to say the Relic Contemptor used to have a 2+ save, so it's a lot of points to spend. Oh, and he also now has a 3+ ballistic skill down from 2+, so not sure I overly like this. Like, I mean, I get that it's got a good amount of firepower, but it's not that survivable. If you compare it against the Leviathan Dreadnought, this one is just, like 5 points cheaper than the Leviathan, and it's got, 5 less wounds, and the Leviathan has a 2+ save, and this just has the 3+ save. I mean, it's okay, survivable, but yeah, I mean, if I was going to pay 215 points, I'd probably try and just pay the extra 5 points and take the Leviathan Dreadnought. We then have a very small Sanguinary Guard, which is 5-man with 2 Power Fists. I generally don't think Sanguinary Guard reach their full potential in 5-man squads, but that's my opinion again. And then quite a large Vanguard Veteran squad. We got 7 here. We got the Sergeant with Infernal Pistol. We've got 2 with Chainsword Storm Shields, 2 with Lightning Claw Storm Shields, 2 with Power Fist Storm Shields. It seems like we're missing, we should probably have the Relic Blade on the Sergeant again if there was enough points, because the Sergeant gets that +1 attack, so it's really nice for the Sergeant to have that Strength 7 Relic Blade. And the Relic Contemptor now costs you -1 CP2 if I recall correctly. Yeah, all Forge World tanks have that Martial Legacy rule on them, so that's fine. Is that 7? Oh, sorry, 7-man. Yeah, this app formats things a little different for me. Sorry, so 7-man. Yeah, so that's fine. Sanguinary Guard generally do okay between 7 and 9. I feel like it's the strongest numbers. 9 is usually a little bit overkill, or it was a little bit overkill, but now maybe it's not so much if you end up against a Duty Eternal target. And I guess against Death Guard, it's not going to be that much overkill either. the -1 damage Death Guard are going to have is going to be pretty significant against Sangre Guard. And then we have the Fast Attack Inceptor Squad, and I guess it's it's 4 Inceptors, so that would give you potentially 24 shots per turn, but these guys did just go up 5 points per model, right? So these would now be 220 points, I believe, and then just 1 Impulsor. I guess probably for your Blade Guard vets and your Judicar. And I mean, I feel like it's needed. Like, your Blade Guard vets and your Judicar are going to be very immobile. So it makes sense to me to include the transport for them. The one issue I have is, like, the transport adds so much to their cost. You know, like, it's like... 175 plus 85, so it's like 270, but then the transport's 110, so... what would it be like? It would be like 270 divided by 380, meaning that, like, the transport is 29% of your cost. You know, if you compare the fact that jump packs are normally like 4 points per model. So if these were... If there was, you know, like, the transport is just so expensive. And I mean, what does an Impulsor really do for you? I mean, maybe it soaks up a little bit of enemy fire while the units are inside it, but beyond that, like, it very much does nothing. Like, and this is the base profile, so I think it's just got like a couple of Stormbolters on it and nothing else, right? Like, it's naked. Plus, you haven't put the shield dome on it either, so like the enemy can probably delete it in turn 1 without even too much trouble, because it's... I don't want to say this till I get to the right page, but I'm sure it's toughness 7, 11 wounds, 3 plus save, yeah. So if it gets hit by a couple of multi-meltas, it could be gone before you even get to move it. And yeah, it's just 2 Stormbolters. So, you know, this week or whatnot, or I say this week, I ran that stream where I included 5 Blade Guard veterans and an Impulsor. And I mean, they did okay. But it was nothing, like, I wasn't super amazed by it or anything like that. It's hard for me to prioritise these over, like, Firstborn Marines, such as Death Company, or another squad of Sangre Guard. You know, like, these are what did we just say, 390 points? Well, 390 points would let you make this, like, a 9-man Sangre Guard, and then you would still have another 300 points to make another 9-man Sangre Guard. It's really hard for me to prioritise the transport and the Blade Guard vets over it. I'd want a chain fist on that for 2 flexibility, and that's in the 7-man. Yeah, I think. Are you talking about a chain fist on the Dreadnought? I mean, that's the good thing about the Leviathan Dreadnought, is that it can take a chain fist and still shoot a bit, I guess, with those new twin Volkite cannons. I'd argue that your Blade Guard veterans and Judicars don't need to be mobile. It's not that far from your DZ to the middle of the field. Yeah, I mean, it isn't that far to the middle of the field, and yeah, maybe you could just be happy enough advancing them twice. I mean, their storm shields actually make them more survivable than the transport. It's a tough call. I mean, running a naked Impulsor without even the shield dome, to me, seems very risky, especially if you've got units inside it. And you know, you've got 2 squads on cursors, so you can probably hold the midfield for at least a turn or 2 for these guys to get there. So I think I'd probably rethink some of that, maybe. Like, that's generally what I would want to do. And then I would also maybe think about adding a couple more relics. Like, you could definitely... I like Iron Resolve on the Librarian Dreadnought. I think it's really great, giving him that 9 wounds, giving him the 6+ Feel No Pain for when he gets hit by, like, other psychic powers that do mortal wounds, or you get Pearls of the Warp. If you have 8 Sangre Guard near the Warlord and you get Savage Echoes, that's 40 attacks on the charge, rerolling 1s, unless the enemy unit is massive. Even Duty Eternal shouldn't survive. Yeah, I mean, Leviathan Dreadnoughts will survive. Sangre Guard are generally quite bad against them now. I did it I think I showed a play against an Iron Hands Dreadnought where 8 Sanguinary Guard with Chapter Master rerolls next to the Warlord only took 10 wounds off the Dreadnought in a single turn. And I mean, that's not ideal, right? Because then the Dreadnought can fight back, it can shoot in the opponent's player's turn. And I guess, but yeah, for most units, I guess Sanguinary Guard will destroy. However, Death Guard, I think, they're going to be a nemesis of ours. I'm probably going to try and do a Death Guard battle as soon as the lockdown ends. I know the Death Guard Codex is coming out next week, or it's coming up for pre-order next week, so I'll try and have a battle against Death Guard soonish. Bob says, I agree with Mark. 1 advance and they're practically in the midfield. Yeah, so I mean, it's probably a good point in that, like, maybe we just don't need this dedicated transport. If the goal for these guys is to get to the midfield, then probably we just don't need that transport. Might be even better. I was going to say maybe add another model to the Sanguinary Guard, or maybe drop 1 Blade Guard veteran, so it's like 4, and then you've got like 135. Sorry, then you would have like 140 points, so you could bring like a 5-man throwaway Death Company. We talk a lot about how useful that can be on this channel. I really need to redo my list with the new points. Feels like a chore. Yeah, I mean, it's not that many things that change in points, so I meant against generic Death Guard, not Leviathan. Yeah, I mean, I guess Death Guard Terminators, what are they called again? Is it like bubonic Terminators or something? With their 3 wounds, they're going to be absolutely disgusting against. We're going to have real problems against those Terminators, I think. You know, that's where those axes will probably be better than your swords. You know, like a lot of people think Sanguinary Guards with swords are the best, but maybe in that case those axes are going to be really important to get those wounds on 2s, because you're going to need to wound them like 3 times per model essentially if they only take 1 damage from the Sanguinary Guard weapons. Okay, so HQs I generally like. I mean, I would like to have had enough points to make this a Bike Master and then maybe make him a Chapter Master as well. I mean, you would have enough points if you dropped this Repulsor. You could... not Repulsor, Impulsor. There would be ways of getting like a 5-man Death Company in here. Again, though, this list really doesn't... I say it doesn't have much shooting. I guess it's got this 1 Relic Contemptor, which is a little strange. Like, again, like a lot of eggs are in this guy's basket. The Inceptors, I mean, they can drop down near that captain or the Dreadnought, I guess, to get the rerolls on their 1s. But you know, some people really like Inceptors. I haven't had overly successful times with them. I don't mind like plasma weaponry on Dreadnoughts or whatnot that can afford to take 1 or 2 mortal wounds, but like on these guys where it's just death if you roll 1 twice in a row, 24 shots, you know, the chances of rolling 1 twice in a row is pretty decent, I guess, or it's starting to climb up there with the bigger squad. But okay, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid list. Basic 1 damage weapons will be the greatest against damage reduction models, and Death Company throw out a buttload of attacks. Yeah, I mean, Death Company with like 8 Death Company and like 2 Thunderhammers are going to be great against Death Guard, because you're going to get like, what, a normal Death Company guy gets like 6 attacks. So if you've got like your 40 odd chainsword attacks from your normal 8 guys, and then you have the couple of Thunderhammers, that's going to be the way to get rid of them. So objective holding, I'm going to put 8.5. I think we'll go with 8.5 if you have like 3 good Phobos choices. That seems to be like a solid number of choices. And then again, we don't really have anything that will clear hordes here. And I mean, I guess the way you could clear hordes is with like some sort of you know, like, I don't want to say a Battle Predator, but some sort of assault cannon or some sort of onslaught cannon. I mean, I guess you could fire a frag missile from the missile launcher, but it doesn't feel like... Is the Cyclone missile launcher may actually be 2d6 for frag. I don't think that's going to make too much changes to how I feel about this list, but let me just double check that. I think like they changed the Cyclone missile launcher, so it was frag is heavy 2d6. Alright, and it's blast. So, I mean, maybe that could do some work. But yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing a whole lot of value on this Impulsor. Right. So anti-horde, I think we're going to put down a little bit less for 8. Anti-vehicle and monsters, and then I guess we'll review the list where it stands. So with the Impulsor, with the Inceptors, with the Vanguard, with the Sanguinary Guard, and with the Phobos units and the sort of mobile HQ choices, then I think the list's mobility is probably just a little bit stronger than that last list, but we do sort of across the board feel like the Impulsor isn't super worth it. Against anti-vehicle and monsters, I mean, it's a good plan to have some firepower for that, so I guess this was the thought behind the Relic Contemptor. I'm just not sure how survivable these guys are since the changes, because I think they used to be like 12 wounds, 2+, 5++, and then a 6 feel no pain, and they dropped to just like a 3+, 5++. So, and they also lost like 3 wounds. So I feel like they're generally a lot less survivable than they were. I mean, for the point cost, I almost think like a Redemptor Dreadnought would be better. I mean, like, we'd almost get a Redemptor... I'd almost be tempted to drop one Blade Guard Veteran and drop this Impulsor and take 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts in here. You know, both with like macro plasmas and both with onslaught cannons, and then you have a serious amount of firepower to clear out hordes and or actually do some armor damage as well. 5 Terminators means 15 of those 40 attacks need to get through from the Sanguinary Guard, hitting on 2s with rerolls and wounding on 2s with axes. Math Hammer are interesting, but I think they'll do it. As with the Echoes, the axes are -3, so it put the Terminators on their invulns. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. If you've got them on the Savage Echoes, then it does put them on their invulnerables. Maybe we should bring back the Assault Cannons, Ball Predators 2021 meta. I mean, Ball Predator is not so sure about those. But, I mean, I do like Onslaught Cannons on Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I do like Leviathans with the Grav Flux, and the Volkite Cannons are pretty good. The Volkite Cannons on the Leviathans do, like, mortal wounds on 6s as well, which is pretty nice. I think the Leviathans are generally quite good now, even though they did get nerfed just because their points cost got reduced by, like, 33% or something. But yeah, this just being 5 points less than a Leviathan seems like... I feel like a Leviathan... It'd be interesting to Math Hammer this against the Leviathan. I mean, this would definitely probably do a little bit more damage maybe, but yeah, it would probably do a little bit more damage, but I think that the Leviathan would be way more survivable. Almost probably at a ratio of like 2-to-1 or something like that. Like, yeah, and just for... This could be killed in one turn of shooting pretty easily. Like, one 3-man squad of Eradicators could take this out. And at that point, does that not just beg the question of, like, why don't we just replace this with Eradicators? Even with their new points cost, they're cheaper and probably more effective. Okay. Alright, so anti-monster infantry as well. I don't dislike it, I just don't think it's the strongest choice. And then specialization, like, I generally think this list is pretty well thought out, though. And I think that I like the fact that he has tried to put in like 450 points or 435 points of shooting. I do like having like that sort of 400 to 500 points of shooting to deal with some sort of threats that maybe you can't get the charges up against, or and I suppose being able to deliver the Judicar and the Blade Guard as well around is, as much as we maybe feel like this Impulsor isn't worth it. If the Impulsor had the Shield Dome, and yeah, maybe it's a good it's an interesting question. But yeah, and then the last thing to say is this could actually be this captain could be on a bike here, and if he was on a bike, he would be +1 toughness, +1 wound, and that the difference between toughness 4 and toughness 5 right now is pretty noticeable, I would guess. I find it's a big difference in every game I play, especially, like, I've lost count how many times my captains with storm shields have died to small arms fire because they just don't particularly do that well against small arms fire. Whereas, like, having that toughness 5 means that they're, like, way more survivable against the small arms fire. And I guess what I mean by small arms fire is, like, just people rapid firing them with bolters or bolt rifles or anything that's, like, low AP, so, like, -1 AP, but there's just, like, a lot of shots and you have to deal with it. And because you're only toughness 4, they just wound you on 50% of the time. So specialization, I think, is probably about that, 8.5. So yeah, I mean, I think this list is probably a little bit weaker than Alucard's list. Just because maybe some of those choices aren't the strongest things in the meta right now, but also, like, overall the direction of the list or the thought out behind the list. I mean, it's a solid list. Again, I think it could win games, but I just think there is some better choices for probably all the options as we currently see it. Jonathan says, is this good for a jump pack captain at 160 points? So I make him a chapter master so I can give him the Angel's Artifice for toughness 1 and toughness 1 wound and 2+ save, then I give him the Artisan of War so I can get the Master Relic Blade. I mean, that's okay, Jonathan. If you really want to see the ultimate chapter master that you can build, the most survivable and the one that can probably do the most damage, then go watch the video I did. It's called Dante versus Chapter Master. And I think he's probably only 10 points more than that. And the one you're linking there will have toughness 5, 6 wounds. The one in my video, he's on a bike, so he's toughness 6, 7 wounds. Ball Predators will waste a bit of their D1 potential by having heavy bolters. For plentiful D1 shots, I'd advise Razor Cannon with Twin Assault Cannons. Yeah, I mean, a Razorback with the Twin Assault Cannons is definitely a decent option. I mean, the other option for damage 1 would be like a Redemptor Dreadnought with just both the heavy onslaught cannon and then the other onslaught cannon on the other arm. I see a reference to FAQ in the comments. I know this is how updates are passed on. Where do I find the FAQs? FAQs are just... I can just put the link in the chat for you. So there's the link to the FAQs. And you pay a CP to give him the second Warlord trait, which is the Imperium Sword, so he will be toughness strength. Sorry, be strength 8, toughness 5, 6 wounds. Yeah, I mean, you can do exactly that with the jump cap. Hold on. If you give him the Angel's Artifice and he has a Storm Shield already, did you mention having a Storm Shield? If you give him the Angel's Artifice and the Storm Shield, you can make him a 1+ save, which I think is really, it's really great against small arm fire because you just ignore that -1 AP, right? Okay, so that is Eric's list, and yeah, hopefully that was useful, Eric. If you're around, leave me a comment or something, and we can, if there's any other questions on it, we can have a look at it. Okay, list number 3 today. Submission number 3 is by JMad. And if any one of you guys watching enjoyed this video today or feel like you're getting value out of it, I do always appreciate if you hit that like button because it does help my channel out quite a lot when you guys all like the videos. Okay, so JMad is back for another great video. I've been playing with a new list and it seems to have promise. Alright, cool. So we have a Primaris captain, interesting choice, I guess, who's a warlord with a plasma pistol and the power fist, and I guess the power fist is mastercrafted. We have a sanguinary priest with no jump pack. We have 3 squads of assault intercessors, and these are massive squads. 3 10-man assault intercessor squads, wow. We have an intercessor squad, I guess maybe for sitting in some backfield. We have 2 tactical war suits. Now this is an unconventional list. We have the Leviathan with the heavy flamers and the storm cannons, and 3 hunter killer missiles. And then we have 2 squads of 3 eradicators with the basic melter rifles, and then we have a repulsor. I guess this might be the first ever list someone submitted with a repulsor in it. But we have a repulsor nonetheless. Heavy onslaught cannon, Irontail heavy stubber, Irontail heavy stubber, Irontail heavy stubber, twin las cannon. 2 stormbolters. I mean, the one thing that is nice about the repulsor is that they do usually have a lot of ways to clear chaff, or basically clear screens. But they are 325 points, which just seems mad to me considering how unsurvivable they are. But I mean, I guess he's going to have 10 assault intercessors in one of these impulsors. Okay, this is an unorthodox list for sure. And I mean, I guess one of the strengths of this list will be able to be honouring the chapter and re-attacking with these assault intercessors. Now, I wanted to double check this because someone asked me about the math for assault intercessors and how many attacks they could potentially get in a turn, and I think you can get 100 chainsword attacks with your assault intercessor squad. And let me double check if that's right, because your assault intercessors have 2 attacks, and then on charging they would have 3 attacks. On Savage Echoes they would have 4 attacks. Because they have a chainsword, they would have 5 attacks. So if you ignore the 1 extra attack for the sergeant and just say you had 10 normal guys, that would give you 50 attacks. Add the 1 for the sergeant, that would give you 51 attacks. Pay the 2 CB to honour the chapter, that would give you 102 attacks per turn. So if there was a way, if you had a good way to re-roll your attacks with the assault intercessors, then a 10-man squad I feel like is actually not that bad at all. I mean, but then the question really comes, would you not just be better having a 10-man Death Company intercessor squad? This list has loads of space for elites. I mean, Death Company intercessors are a few more points, but they do have more attacks, and then they do have that feel no pain. So, I mean, I guess they aren't OBSEC, and I guess that's maybe one of the strengths of this sort of crazy list. This list is going to be very difficult to score, but yeah, so the Death Company intercessors just get that 1 more attack, but then they also get the they also get the Black Rage, which gives them another attack when they charge, or they get charged. So, 10 of them could get 70 chainsword attacks. Interesting list. We've got the 2 tactical war suits who can deploy with concealed positions. We have the Leviathan Dreadnought that's very much going to clear screens with storm cannons and all of the heavy flamers. We have a couple of squads of eradicators. So, I mean, in some ways, he has kind of built like your 400 or 500 points of shooting here. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, though, if you have this many if you have this many assault intercessors, right, you're only going to be able to honour the chapter with 1 squad, right? So you can't. So having 3 squads is maybe overkill, right? Like, would it be better to have 2 squads of 10 and then 1 squad of 10 Death Company intercessors? But so I guess the idea would be these tactical war suits take up the enemy's time while all these guys like foot slog it across the battlefield, and then I guess you have 10 of them in the impulsor. This is so far away from the meta right now. I don't know how. I'm trying to think if I played against this list. Like, I could definitely kill the repulsor in turn 1. Then everything else is moving across the battlefield slowly. I could probably screen out these assault intercessors from where I wanted to go. But at the same time, I mean, like, there's something scary to say, like, well, if one squad gets in, then you can do 102 chainsword attacks. Like, 102 chainsword attacks, like, if we just say It's 102 chainsword attacks, and we're hitting on 3s and we're wounding on 3s. Like, you need to take 44 saves. So, I mean, if we want to take 44 saves on power armor, you know, like you would take 22 wounds in one turn. So if those do get in, they will delete units. I mean, I guess the question would be like if 44 got in against the Sanguinary Guard, they would save on 3s. How many wounds would they take off the Sanguinary Guard? You know, they would take off 14 wounds, so they would be able to kill 7 Sanguinary Guard in a turn. So it is interesting. It is very different, but it is also interesting. If Death Company Interceptors' assault weapons could fight twice, that'd be disgustingly broken. Yeah, I mean, it's... But, like, where it stands, Mark, do they not need to make Death Company Intercessors more attractive? Because at the moment, like, is anyone running them? Because I know for a fact that, like... I was going to say, like, I have a box there that has 20 Intercessors, Assault Intercessors on sprues. I would be making them as you know, like, if Death Company Intercessors were good, I would be making them straight away to field them in the battlefield. Instead, I am not. I actually just bought another box of regular Death Company just the other day as well, you know. Yeah, I guess they're just not good. So JMAD, let's score this list up. This is so difficult to score, I guess. I mean, we're gonna give him a 9 for OBSEC because he has 3 10-man squads of troops which can be transhumaned. Good afternoon, Krychek. How you doing? I think he gets a 10 for like anti-infantry, right? Like it's gonna be really hard. Any infantry army is going to get destroyed by all these chain swords, or any horde army is going to get, assuming you can make the charges and you can position them well, it's going to do really well. I mean, the only thing it's going to do badly is if you can't make the charges against the prime targets, because the enemy has screens and ways to deal with them. Against heavier stuff, then, I mean, he does have 2 squads of Eradicators. He does have probably just the Eradicators. I was going to say he's got Leviathan Dreadnought, but the way it's armed, it's just Storm Cannons. So again, it's much more for cleaning screens. I mean, the Invictor Tactical Warsuits can probably do some damage with their Power Fists, but these things, they deploy so far forward, they generally don't survive too late in the game. So I'd probably say it's probably like 8.5. This little list struggles on mobility. I guess, like, we have no jetpack units, jump pack units at all. We have that one repulsor, which would probably be a bit of a bullet magnet. And again, repulsors aren't super survivable, in my opinion. 1 squad of Eradicators could definitely delete the impulsor in 1 turn, and they may not. The repulsor wouldn't even get a save against the Eradicators. So, like, mobility, we're probably going to score like a 7. And specialization, this list is crazy specialized, but I mean, like, he does have a very distinct tactic in that he is going to run at you with 30 assault intercessors, and that's hopefully like, you're going to waste time killing these tactical warsuits. Meanwhile, all these chain swords are coming in, and then they're backed up by a few things. I'm surprised he didn't spend many CP on Heroes of the Chapter or Warlord traits. I feel like there's some that could definitely be spent here. JMAD, if you're new to that stuff and you're not sure, then join the Facebook group in the video description, and we'll help you out with that for sure, because you could take... I don't think you've even included a relic, and you get 1 relic for free. So you're kind of wasted on your relic, and you could definitely spend a couple of your CP here. You don't need to start the battle with 12 by any means. And also, Speed of the Primarch is probably not the best Warlord trait either for this Warlord. Maybe you need a clarification on Speed of the Primarch, but Speed of the Primarch does not mean you will fight first if you're charged by the enemy. If you think it does, then I mean, they mentioned that, I believe, was that in one of the FAQs this week? But I'm not getting Death Company Intercessors until they've got jump packs. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to keep those 20 Assault Intercessors on sprues until they tell us what we can do with them. And maybe you want a librarian to Psychic Fortress along with a priest to keep the Assault Intercessors alive. Yeah, I mean, maybe there is... You would definitely want to take the Selfless Healers so you can heal and revive Assault Intercessors if that's the main force running through the battlefield. And, a bit of a different list then, but like specialization, we're probably going to say like, don't want to be too harsh on the specialization, but I mean like, it's just very different list from what I normally see, so maybe something like a 6. Like, I feel like there's certain armies this isn't just going to work against. If they can screen you out and then they can, I mean like, these are just one of the huge advantages of the jump pack units, I think, that we have access to is the fact that like you can make it very difficult for an enemy to shoot you, right? Like these guys, for me, when I run Assault Intercessors, they get killed in No Man's Land so many times. So you're just gonna have loads of intercessors running through No Man's Land. Big 10-man squads as well means you're much more likely to fail morale as well if the enemy's smart and they focus fire. So yeah, you've got that going for you as well, or going against you as well. Hey Dracula, thanks for tuning in. So yeah, a bit of a weird list from JMad, but I mean, like you said, what did he say at the start? He said it was performing well. He has a new list that has promise. Well, yeah, I mean, JMad, put down in the comments. Put down in the comments some comments, I suppose, about like what you're thinking or who you've been playing against, and also if you need some help with like Hero of the Chapter or the Relic. I forget what they call the Relic stratagem now. You would definitely want to look at Hero of the Chapter, right? You can put 2 things as Hero of the Chapter in 2K games, and the Relic one is now called it's called Relic of the Chapter, of course it is. So you want to look at Relic of the Chapter as well. So you get 1 free relic every game, and then you can also pay for 2 more relics, right? So you could definitely pay a couple of CP to give your captain another relic, or give your priest that Warlord Selfless Healer, and then maybe give him a relic as well. Maybe you want Icon of the Angel, so any Assault Intercessors within, is it 6 inches of the priest could reroll their charges? I mean, a huge 600 points of your army here relies on foot slogging guys making their charges, so maybe having the way for this priest to let them all reroll the charges would be pretty important. So I feel like there's some improvements that could be made for sure. I don't know why you would not include some of those things. Just take some time and read over the relics and the Hero of the Chapter rules. That's my thoughts on this. And yeah, I mean, I might even try and get another HQ into this list. Or, like I said at the start, I might try and get Death Company Intercessors into this list, because if you are running this many Intercessors, then you're only going to be able to Hero the Chapter 1 squad, so potentially it might be worth just having those Death Company with this. They have like 20 more attacks, and they have that 6+ Feel No Pain. It's a very aggressive list. Maybe most Warhammer 40k players aren't used to such a list having so much in their face. Yeah, I don't know if my friends would ever imagine running that many troops with just that many chainswords, but yeah, if you're gonna, I think what Highland is saying is if you're gonna focus a large part of your list on these Assault Intercessors, you need tools and ways to get them into the battle quicker. And I suppose the one thing to say as well is if you did take Death Company Intercessors, right, as one of these squads, then the Death Company Intercessors, we just said at the start of the battle that, or the start of today's stream, that the foot slogging Death Company aren't going to use Forlong Fury, but here is maybe an argument for using Forlong Fury, in that you're just running so many chainswords that having those Death Company Intercessors start 6 inches up the board would potentially be interesting, in that you would be able to just get more across the battlefield quickly. Or you could run like 2 small 5-man squads of Death Company Intercessors, because you do have plenty of elite choice or elite slots here. Like, you only are using 3 of your 6 elite slots. Yeah, and another thing that might be good is like some sort of Visions of Death That's a very good point in that, like, you have so many OBSEC troops here, so being able to remove OBSEC from your enemies with a character that can basically run the Visions of Death relic would be very, very good too. And I mean, you already have some characters that could do it, so it would just be a case of adding to these existing characters and maybe tweaking out one more. Okay, so yeah, I mean, a little bit of a weaker score, but like I think it's just weak because it's not meta, and like I'd have to play against something. Like, I haven't played anything remotely like that right now. Okay, next up we're looking at Jay Banbury. I think I said his name wrong earlier in the stream, so apologies for that, Jay. Alright, so this is an updated list for tomorrow's review. Infiltrators provide deep strike, screening and backfield. Company champion, deep strikes with Sanguinary Guard for reroll auras. Priest stay with Blade Guard vets and aim for centerboard, reviving and healing as needed. Chaplain initially stays close to Blade Guard for protection, then strikes when needed. Tech Marine stays in range of both Dreadnoughts, providing auras and healing. A small Death Company unit to deep strike where needed. Okay, I mean, it sounds pretty... Just from reading this, it sounds like you've got a pretty good ass handle on how you're building, or what you're building towards. So, Primaris Chaplain on the bike with the Mantra of Strength, the Gift of Foresight, the Canticle of Hate, the Angel's Exemplar, the Benediction of Fury. So we have the special Crozius, the Wise Orator, so it's both litanies on 2+. Yeah, I mean, I love this character. He's very good. We have the Primaris Tech Marine with Master of the Forge and the Voxum Spiritum. I need to remind myself what that is. I don't think I've run it yet. I thought that was the one that gave you additional range to your auras, right? While chapter core unit is within 6, each time that unit fights, it gives 1 attack, and it's not cumulative with Shock Assault. And this guy you said was running with the Dreadnoughts? Is that super needed then? Like, this is not cumulative with additional attack granted for Shock Assault. I feel like this is maybe... Someone in chat tell me why this is valuable if it's not cumulative within Shock Assault. Because if the enemy are going to charge your Dreadnoughts... What are your Dreadnoughts, actually? I was going to say, it sounds like you're running Redemptor Dreadnoughts, right? So your Redemptor Dreadnoughts have their claws, and anything they attack with their claws, it's D3 plus 3 damage, so a minimum of 4 to 6 damage, and they get like 6 attacks when they're charged, right? A Redemptor Dreadnought has 5 attacks? It's 4 or 5 attacks. Yeah, so it's 4 attacks. So it's 5 attacks if they're charged. So why do you need the Voxus Spiritum? How does the champion deep strike? I think he means the champion would be strategic reserved. We have a Sanguinary Priest who has a Chainsword, the Chief Apothecary, the Selfless Healer, and the Armor Indomitus. I think you've messed up here and you've chosen Chainsword twice, and because you've done that, it's made him Legends. You just remove that and give him a Bolt Pistol. So he's got the Chainsword and the Bolt Pistol, and then he's not Legends. But I think everything else is fine. Yeah, I mean, near the table edges. But remember, his aura is another 6 inches. So he comes in 6 inches from the table edge. As long as the unit deep striking is within another 6 of him, then they can reroll a charge. And you can daisy chain like 1 or 2 units towards it. You know, like when you drop your deep striking unit, only 1 unit needs to be 9 inches away from the enemy, or 1 model within that unit. You can daisy chain a couple towards your strategic reserve guy if that's how you want to do it. Isn't the Vox the one that gives +3 to the aura distance? Oh, sorry. Add 3 to the bearer's aura. I was reading the one above it. So you add 3 inches to the Tech Marine's aura. What is the Tech Marine's aura? Is it just the one where he... it's where he awakens the vehicle, right? Is that even an aura? I don't think that's an aura. Yeah, I mean, like, if they were an aura, they would say on them aura, right? Like, these are the Tech Marines. Blessing of the Messiah, Omnissiah, doesn't say aura. Awaken the Machine Spirit, doesn't say aura. So, I think the Vox Spiritum is wasted on him. Someone did this the other week in that they put the Vox Spiritum, or whatever it's called, on the Judicar, thinking it was the same thing. But the Judicar, again, here's the Judicar, Temper Mortis, doesn't say Aura. So if it doesn't say Aura, then you're essentially, that is a wasted relic on that Techmarine, because it wouldn't do what you want it to do. Yeah. So this I guess this Vox Spiritum needs changed for something more useful. On a Techmarine, I'm sure there's the only relic I've ever run on a Techmarine is a regular Techmarine, not a Primaris one. So I guess I'll leave that up to you to figure out what to do. Unless anyone in the chat has a good idea what you could replace that relic with on your Techmarine. We then have Incursors, Infiltrators. So the 2 Infiltrators, 1 Incursors troop squad, I think is generally very safe. I mean, I like it a lot. You can definitely screen a lot of the board with Infiltrators. Some people don't rate Infiltrators as highly as I do. I think in the last week's game against Death Guard, like, the fact that the Death Guard player had like 2 really expensive units in Deep Strike that he wasn't able to do anything with them in the battle just shows how strong these guys are for the extra 20 points. I think it's so worth it. We have a Blade Guard that he said was trying to get to the middle of the board, 5 of them. We have a throwaway Death Company with a Thunderhammer, exactly how I run my Death Company, so I like it. We have the Company Champion, who has the reroll charges, and he's also running the Shield Eternal. I mean, I guess that's fine. I think it's... Did he put the Armor Indomitus on the Priest? Yeah, so you don't have the Armor Indomitus on the Priest. So the Shield Eternal is decent. The Blade of Triumph might be decent here as well. I suppose it depends on how much damage you're expecting the Company Champion to take. Why not take the Techmarine Weapon Relic? Why not? Infiltrators are very meta dependent. Yeah, I think that's probably right. But see, with my Infiltrators, like, let's say in my meta, let's say like half the armies I play don't have any Deep Strike. I never really feel like the 20 extra points or the 15 extra points I paid for the Infiltrators hurts me in any way. Like, if my enemy doesn't have any Deep Strike, I never think like, oh shit, those 15 points would have been super useful. Because it's such a small amount of points, right? Like, every game you probably have, like, if you think, like I said in that Death Guard game, I had a 100-point unit that did nothing all game. They never fought. They never made any charges. They just sat on objective. So I think that the Infiltrators, the points cost for them, it's low enough where it doesn't feel like you lose anything. So what is the Techmarine Relic? Because I don't know what it is. I'm looking for it, but I don't see it. Techmarine is an aura. Oh, he only has that. He only has the Techmarine Relic if he has that. If he's done the Techmarine upgrade. Okay, so then I guess just something different for the Techmarine would be what I would advise. We then have 7-man Sanguinary Guard, Bolter's Swords, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. This seems to be common. People seem to like to run 2 of these. One with Onslaught and Heavy Onslaught, one with Macroplasma and Onslaught. I think these are both decent choices. I like the Macroplasma Onslaught. I feel like these guys have enough wounds where they can easily afford to fire the Macroplasma on high power. And they also can do the reroll 1s in a bubble around them. I'd advise dropping the relic on the Techmarine and using it elsewhere, saving the CP. I don't think there are any good relics to give a backfield buffing Techmarine. The Honor of Vehement isn't a terrible choice for the Techmarine. Not great, though, as Mark says. Yeah, I mean, it's... I don't know. I mean, the only one I could see to take would be the Reliquary of Gathimor. So, like, the bear gains that following ability while the enemy psychers within 18 of the bears subtract 1 to psychic tests, and each time the psychic test is failed, roll a d6 on a 4 plus that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. But again, it's kind of situational. I could well ditch the Tech Marine Relic and save the CP. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what you should do here. I mean, you just need to be aware that, because I run a Tech Marine a lot, right, with my super heavy tanks. I always run the Tech Marine. And the tanks and the Dreadnoughts here, for example, will move further than the Tech Marine. So you just have to advance the Tech Marine to make sure he keeps up with them. And, I mean, sometimes it just means the Tech Marine might not get to fire, but, I mean, that's just a sacrifice you have to make. Or the Dreadnoughts just don't quite move their full distance, so the Tech Marine is always within 3 inches at the beginning of the turn. Because I believe you awaken the vehicle at the beginning of the turn and then you heal it at the end of the movement phase. So it's a bit weird that you do those two things at different times, but yeah, it's just 3 inches. So it's quite a small distance when you measure it, Jay. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, but I mean, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, generally I quite like them. We have 1 ATV with the multi-melta. I mean, I run sometimes attack bites with multi-melta, so this is just the same thing, just a little bit more survivable. And then the 2 Eradicator squads, you've actually got these on the new points costs. Great, so they are 135 points each. And yeah, I mean, like, this list pretty much does exactly what I speak about a lot, I suppose, in that, like, you get 270 points of shooting here. You've got, like, I don't... See, when I'm talking about shooting, like, I often include Leviathans or Redemptor Dreadnoughts as quote-unquote shooting units, right? Because they do. They shoot, and they shoot really effectively. But I guess, like, the other thing about the Leviathan and the Redemptor Dreadnoughts is they have those really high damaging claws, and Blood Angels are great in close combat, and their claws are pretty much going to wound anything in the game on 2s. So sure, the ballistic skill is only 3, or the weapon skill is only 3, but if you move them forward every turn and you eventually get into combat with the claws, you will just murder things with the claws. Like, so I mean, like, these are really good to sort of to fill 2 roles, right? Like, they shoot for 2 or 3 turns while they chug across the battlefield, but if your opponent doesn't deal with them, then they start murdering them with the claws. And I mean, like, those claws, like I said, they do 4 to 6, so an average of 5 damage per hit. And you can reroll your ones with the claws, or these things can be given Chapter Master buffs. So generally, I kind of love Redemptor Dreadnoughts. And sometimes you don't have a Psyker here, but sometimes I would even cast, like, Shield of Sanguinius on Redemptor Dreadnought as it just marches across the battlefield in order for the enemy to just waste time shooting it to try and bring it down. Use the jump pack first. Use a jump pack firstborn Tech Marine. I didn't think Tech Marines can get jump packs. Pretty sure they can. Also situational, but swap out the relic with another trait and go Soul Ward and protect all the vehicle in range from mortal wounds. Yeah, that would be interesting. Robin says, up super late, busy day, we'll catch it all in the replay. Much love, brothers. Hey Robin, thanks for tuning in. FYI, Tech Marine should always be able to fire on advance, if I remember correctly. Glad I haven't missed my list review. Maybe, do you know what, I think you're right. I think the Primaris Tech Marine's weapon is assault, right? Whereas, like, the regular Tech Marine has just got, like, a bolt gun, so he can't fire. But yeah, the Forge Bolter is assault 3. So, I mean, I guess that's the advantage of having that Primaris Tech Marine. Man, I need to buy a Primaris Tech Marine now, don't I? Jeez, it never ends. I always got to buy something new. So, the Primaris Tech Marine gets 1 more wound, and his bolter is basically a heavy bolter, but it's assault 3. And even if he makes attacks with this weapon, he can also make attacks with his pistols or grenades. So, I guess if he doesn't advance, he can still shoot his pistol. And I guess he can also throw a frag or a crack grenade as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess the advantage of the Primaris Tech Marine is that his gun is assault. And his ballistic skill is 2s for a Tech Marine, so I guess you get 3 heavy bolter shots on the Primaris Tech Marine. That's not so bad. Am I sure? Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. If that's what you're asking? The Forge Bolter up here. Assault 3. It's basically a heavy bolter, but he also can shoot his other guns. So I didn't realise this, because like I said, I run the regular Tech Marine. The only reason I run this regular Tech Marine was, like, he was cheaper in points, and I already have the model and he's already painted. I hadn't bought a Primaris Tech Marine, but and I mean, I'm actually probably personally, I'm maybe elevating away from the tech marine. It's just 10 more points to take the 10 more points for like a heavy bolter that gets 3 shots every turn and 1 more wound is maybe not bad. Like on a lot of other models, you actually just have to pay 10 points for a heavy bolter, right? So this basically is a heavy bolter with an additional shot and 1 more wound. And I think jump pack tech marines are probably legends. Perhaps a Leviathan Dreadnought equipped with 1 Gravflux Bombard, 2 Volkite cannons. A Leviathan Siege Drill is just more effective for the extra points. Try not making it on Battlescribe. Yeah, I mean, Battlescribe is just so out of date at the moment, Julian. I don't know what they've been doing with it recently, but that's why I've not been using it. It's been wrong since like November. I think ever since they released that Blood Angel supplement, Battlescribe has generally been wrong. So, we have the Chaplain on the bike, who is great. We have this Primaris Tech Marine, who we've just decided is pretty decent, but we're going to lose the Vox Spiritum. I think we already fixed this guy, did we? Because he was coming up as Legends, but he had 2 Chainswords. The troop choices are decent. The throwaway Death Company makes sense. The Sanguinary Guard dropping in with the Company Champion is good. The Redemptors is good. The ATV is, I guess, like a bit nichey, but I mean, 4 power level for the ATV to reserve. The Company Champion is 4 power level, so I guess if you pay the 1 CP to put the Champion into reserve, you could throw the ATV in it as well, and that would still only cost you 1 CP. Bring in this ATV to shoot something off an objective if you need to. So yeah, generally this is a well thought out list, Jay. I kind of like it. I mean, the other 2 lists, or the other 3 lists we've looked at today, I probably wouldn't have played. I feel like I would play something like this. If it was me, I'd probably think about maybe just 1 Redemptor based on the fact that you've already got 2 Eradicator squads, and maybe have like more melee units. But like I said, Redemptors generally fill a dual purpose here. Or maybe we would drop 1 Redemptor, and in doing so, drop the Redemptor, we would drop the Tech Marine, because he's probably not as needed if you only have the 1 Redemptor, right? And then take like the Bike Chapter Master that we've gone over on our current videos, how he's an absolute badass. If you did do that, then it would leave you like 120 points. What can you do with 120 points? I mean, you could beef up that Death Company, make it a little bit less throwaway. You could run like a Judicar or something in the middle of the board with those Blade Guard veterans to force the enemies to fight last. So this is a pretty cool list, and I think for the most part, like I do like it, and it is something that I could run. All right, so I think we said if you did 2 Incursors and 1 Infiltrators, we'll give you 8.5. I mean, in some ways, you have the 2 Infiltrators and the 1 Incursors, which is arguably like a little bit stronger. I mean, like some people said, it is situational, but I think that's a little bit stronger. So you're probably on a 9. We have like 3 Onslaught Cannons, so like if the enemy has some sort of screening, then we can clear out any screening that they have pretty easily. We also have like the Angelus Bolters that can join in on that. Having 6 Eradicators gives us 12 multi-melta shocks that could help with that as well. And I mean, I guess the Incursors also, and then auto-wounded Infiltrators. So I feel like against Horde armies, you're going to be in a pretty good situation, I would have thought. Like, it's probably a 9 as well. And then Anti-Vehicle Monster. If you can deploy the Eradicator smartly, keep them alive, and I mean, like, I would have liked to have 2 Macroplasma Cannons on the Redemptors. I think it is the same points cost to have it. But, I mean, I guess if you did come up against Death Guard, then this one is arguably going to be even stronger. And I'm going to... So, in general, like, this list is probably quite well-rounded to do that. And I mean, your Chaplain on the bike with the Benediction of Fury has about 7 attacks. Was it 3 damage a swing? 4 damage a swing with the Mantra of Strength. And 6 is doing mortal wounds. So he can wreck some armor if he's in the right position. I do think that I do think that you maybe don't need the Tech Marine with 2 Redemptors, but I mean, maybe it's fine as well. Like, maybe I would rather this was like a utility librarian or something, right? But I mean, maybe it's fine. And then obviously we've got our chapter master or chapter champion in here who also is a beast and can clear out infantry. So yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to fault too much at this point, right? Like, I feel like everything there is going well. Mobility, you maybe are a little bit less mobile on. I mean, you've got that one bike, you've got the Sanguinary Guard, and then you've got your Sanguinary Priest and your other bike. So mobility is a little bit lower, but like, is mobility going to cause you too many problems here? I don't think it really will. Like, your infiltrators and incursors should be able to survive and hold objectives so that you will always have, like, obviously in 9th edition primaries are like half your points, right? So holding your primaries for the whole game is like half your points, and if you hold 2 on most maps, holding 2, or I guess on some of the maps it is 3, but if you hold 2 on most maps, you'll usually get like your 10 points per turn, which is probably fine. Someone says I'd like the Librarian Dreadnought of the Tech Marine. I mean, yeah, maybe. You know, like, the Librarian Dreadnought would give you like even more killy, and like I think I would do that actually. Like, I think you'd have to drop one of your Redemptors, the Redemptor and the Tech Marine, and you would be able to put in a Librarian Dreadnought and have like 130 points. I don't know what you do with that 130 points right now. Maybe you have another 4-man Sanguinary Guard, and then you put like a couple of an Infernal Pistol into each squad, and you just have that 4-man Sanguinary Guard as sort of a reactional unit, so that like they can back up wherever in the battlefield you need them, and then maybe that brings back your mobility, because like I think your mobility is a little bit lower. And then specialization, like I think it's well balanced. Like I said, Redemptors are great for being well balanced, I suppose. I mean, we are talking about dropping one of them, but I mean, the other thing you could drop would be, you could drop 3 Eradicators. If you drop 3 Eradicators, that gives you 135 points. You drop this Tech Marine, so you've got 235 points. You put back on Librarian, costs 155 points. That leaves you 80 points. So you could then make this one squad of Eradicators a 4-man squad, and you could actually throw on the Heavy Melter Rifles, because the Heavy Melter Rifles, when we maths hammered it, they were actually more effective than the regular Melter Rifles. I mean, you do get that -1 for heavy, but I mean, you probably, if you can move them in smartly, and there is a stratagem, right, where maybe there's not, but you could get the Heavy Melter Rifles on and have 4 of them, take Librarian Dreadnought, and then I guess you'd have a few points to play with. Maybe you add another guy to the Death Company. Maybe go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago about adding a guy to the Sanguinary Guard. I think that would generally be very good. But yeah, overall, I think specialization for this list, I don't think it's really struggling in any form. So I think probably this is the strongest list we've seen today, in my opinion, or at least this is how I like to play Blood Angels, where like I haven't got everything. I don't require all my charges to be made. I don't, like, if some of these things don't make their charges, I know I have enough firepower to back it up. And yeah, I mean, like, against in some maps where there isn't as much terrain as I would particularly like, or the terrain is very open and it's difficult to get and put units on objectives, then I think this list can survive pretty well. So I hope that's useful to you, Jay. Sugar, I should have updated the thing at the top of the screen. But yeah, I mean, I think overall it was overall it's like a well-rounded list. Like, it, if you've got anything you want to throw into the chat, just let me know. Hey Charles, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. I love the idea of shooting my enemy's primary nasty melee units with it, doing no damage but making it have to fight last until the start of my next turn and mess up an enemy's battle plan for a turn. What did I miss? You were talking about a whirlwind. Anyone tried the whirlwind for the fight last? Yeah, I mean, I really like the whirlwind. The issue with the whirlwind is it doesn't do much damage, but it does give you that ability to add that fight last to the enemy's army. So if you plan and use the whirlwind well, and I believe the whirlwind stratagem stops them using Overwatch as well, so that's pretty useful. Steady advance would let you move and shoot. See, I cancelled that. I thought steady advance was intercessors only, or is it Primaris only? Steady advance. Oh no, it's just any infantry. So yeah, steady advance would let you, if they did have the heavy melter rifles, you'd be able to use steady advance to still move the 4 of them and shoot them without any -1 to hit. Yeah, I mean, the way I would probably run them is like the Eradicators move along with the Redemptor, so the Redemptor can use its reroll 1's bubble, and then the Eradicators can take advantage of that, right? Hey Jay, you're very welcome. Glad. Thanks for what is my go-to Death Company loadout? The one that you see here, which is Jay's list, which is 1 Thunderhammer and the rest Bolter and Chainswords, and it's just a 5-man squad that I run. If it's going to run 10, I would just double it. Yeah, Whirlwind would have been a good unit for that Assault Intercessor list. You are very right, Highland. I was going to submit a list, but the Eradicators went up in points, so I might as well mod the list. It wouldn't be the final version. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't say it at the start of today's stream, but if you want to submit a list for future review, what you need to do is go onto YouTube, go onto the Blood Angels Commander page, tap over on the community, and in the most recent community post your list as a comment in here, and that way I will be able to find it easily, and I'll add you to the queue for future list reviews. Okay. So, next up then we have, and I guess last but hopefully not least, today is Psyduck. So Psyduck, I saw you were in the chat. Oh, I don't know my taskbar. I saw you were in the chat, so I guess if you've got any questions or comments while we're going through, please just shout out in the chat and I'll try and pick them up. And yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out today. I really enjoy doing our Sunday show, so it's nice to have quite a lot of viewers in today. Like, we got 50 people here right now, so that's pretty nice to see. Alright, so again, it's a 2,000 point battalion detachment. We've got 2 extra relics. So we have a captain on a bike who is the Artisan of War. He has the Gift of Foresight. He has the Adamantium Mantle. He has the Angel's Artifice. He is the Angel's Exemplar. He is a Chapter Master. He has a Power Fist and a Storm Shield. And he is the Warlord. So, pretty much exactly the same one that I run, right? So he's got the Toughness 6. He's got the 7 wounds. He has the 1+ save, the 4+ invulnerable save, the 5+ feel no pain. You just chose to give him the Power Fist rather than the Thunderhammer, but I mean, I guess that's your choice. I mean, I think both are pretty good. I guess the one thing to say now is that now that we know that adaptive strategy can be played, and now that we know for sure that the Red Grail, the Blood Chalice ability can be used, that we can get them into Assault Doctrine that bit earlier. I just need to check something. The Blood Chalice can be used on characters, yeah, okay. I don't typically run the Blood Chalice all that much, but I mean, I guess now that the Blood Chalice can be run on characters, that means that we could put this captain into Assault Doctrine from turn 1, essentially, if we want to. So that is pretty useful. Anyone use a Storm Talon Dunship? Might not be too competitive, but I think it's a cracking looking model. I am using a Storm Talon at the moment. And cool. Okay, Primaris chaplain on a bike. All right, so this is jumping on the bike train for sure. The captain and the chaplain both on the bikes. Mantra of Strength, Canticle of Hate, Benediction of Fury, Master of Sanctity, and the Imperium Sword. All right, so this guy is getting what, Strength 7 on the charge, and again like 7 attacks. He actually may be able to be Strength 8 with the Mantra of Strength up. So 2 kick-ass biker characters to start with, and then our priest. Surprised that you didn't make this priest the selfless healer. I feel like everybody's making him the selfless healer. Do you not have enough? You only have one hero of the chapter, right? So you could make him the selfless healer? So, a question mark about why you haven't made the priest selfless healer. I feel like it's very strong. Being able to heal 2 units and revive a unit every turn. Then we have the 10-man Assault Intercessor Squad. So we talked about the strength of these guys with all their chain swords a little bit earlier in the stream. 2 Incursor Squads and an Infiltrator Squad. I mean, this generally seems fine. The strength of these guys is the fact that we can honour the chapter. And I guess with Honour of the Chapter, they can have 100 chainsword attacks per turn. Sure, it costs 2 CP, but I mean, in terms of like just raw damage output, that is pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess Land Raiders are probably not super useful at the moment either, except maybe there is one Land Raider. It's called the Land Raider Achilles, and it is a... The Land Raider Achilles has a 5+ invulnerable save, and it has 2 twin-linked multi-meltas on it. So, I mean, it gets like 8 multi-melta shots per turn. I mean, I think that Land Raider might be pretty useful, but, I mean, the other one's not so much. Alright, and this list was... The bike characters were originally meant to be run with Outriders. Okay, so we have Sanguinary Guard, so 5-man, another 5-man, another 5-man. I feel like Sanguinary Guard, to me, my preference is like 7 to 9. Like, I don't know if 5-men Sanguinary Guard get the work done as much. I mean, maybe, I suppose, once you go over 6, you do have to suffer a little bit against blast rules, but, like, is that so important? Like, are 3 damage blast weapons such an issue that you can't run more than 5 of them? I don't think so. Yeah, and I think it would be Strength 8 for that the Chaplain charging in. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then we have an Assault Terminator with Lightning Claws on the Sergeant, and then 2 with Thunderhammers, and then 2 more with Lightning Claws. I mean, if you're going to run Assault Terminators, I feel like you would want the Sergeant to have the Thunderhammer and Storm Shield, right? So it's like you get that +1 attack on the guy with the big massive 3 damage hammer, as opposed to 1 more attack with a Lightning Claw. But I mean, that's just my opinion. And again, he would be the last surviving member of the squad, right? So everybody dies. If everybody's dead, would you rather have one left with a Thunderhammer or with a Lightning Claw? For me, it's a Thunderhammer. And then we've got a Vanguard Veteran Squad, 2 with Chainsword Storm Shields, 2 with Lightning Claws Storm Shields, and then the Sergeant with a Power Fist and Storm Shield. You know that the Sergeant of the Vanguard Veteran can take a Relic Blade, which essentially is +3 strength, -3, 2 damage. So it's exactly the same as a Power. It's 1 less strength than the Power Fist, but there's no -1 to hit. So I feel like a Relic Blade is a stronger option on this Sergeant. And how many points you got left over? Anything? No. If you do have 5 points left over at any point, then what is also really good here is I like to give the Sergeant of the Vanguard Veteran an Infernal Pistol because... Actually, you do, because the Storm Shield costs 4 points, right? And you have 1 point left over. So lose the Storm Shield, so -4, and then add an Infernal Pistol, which is +5, because arguably, again, like, you're going to take the wounds on all these guys first. So if you only have 1 model left, would it be better if that final model had an Infernal Pistol? there's the potential to do 8 damage for 1 more point, as opposed to being a tiny bit more survivable, and you're not going to take the wounds on him anyway, Psyduck. So consider that. Welcome back, Big Chief. So you're likely to get that 102 attacks as the second fight after the enemy swings back. Yeah, so you would do 51 attacks with your 10-man assault intercessors. Then the enemy would fight back, I suppose. So they would have to, if they don't kill everything, then you would be able to do the whole 51 attacks again. Yeah, but I mean, if you're assault intercessors and with another unit, especially with that new angel sacrifice stratagem, you could almost force them to attack a character or something, so you can get all those attacks back at them. And then we have 4 interceptors and the interceptor sergeant, all with plasma eradicators. Cool. A thunderfire cannon on the Achilles hull. I have one on my pile of shame, but it's still in the sprues. It's like 360 points. It's an expensive Land Raider, but I mean, Land Raiders are generally quite expensive anyway. So I think if you're gonna the Relic Blade is 10 points, not 8. Sorry, I thought... Do you know what? That's that stupid thing where that some squads' Power Fists cost 10 points, some squads' Power Fists cost a different amount of points. Okay, my bad. I thought that the Power Fist on this squad cost 10. I guess it costs 10 when it's with the Death Company, right? Alright, as my previous list, Incursors deploy forward, Infiltrators hide in the back, Captain, Chaplain, Priest move with the Sanguinary Guard, the Vanguard off to the sides to protect the Chaplain, Priest until the Sanguinary Guard drop in, the Terminators drop in to hold critical point, and the Interceptors say hi to opportune targets. The idea is to descend forward, OBSEC bulked up by reinforcing assault intercessors, lots of anti-horde stuff, also a decent amount of anti-tank with the Fist and Hammers and the Chaplain. Tempted to switch Imperium's Sword to Wise Orator, but will probably keep it for the Strength 8 attack. Do you know what? I would change it to Wise Orator. I think that the litanies going off with 2s just seems so much more reliable than 3s. You lost count the amount of times that I've failed 2 litanies before I had Wise Orator, and then after having Wise Orator, it's just like, it just feels like they go off all the time. It's such... You wouldn't think it, but in practice for me, it felt very worthwhile to keep the Wise Orator. Especially when it's like critical litanies that you need off, like you really want that Canticle for the reroll, or the 6-inch Consolidate and Charge and stuff, And yeah, Inceptors have gone up a little bit in points in FAQ, and I don't know about these 5-man Sanguinary Guards. I don't think they feel that much at risk being like 7 to 9 man. Like, I would probably make a 7 and an 8 out of these 2 squads. I feel like you're going to get maximum impact with a 7 or 8 charging into the opponent. If you have the Chapter Master and you're going to grant the rerolls of buffs, which you do, then you definitely want to grant that to like a larger squad than 5. That's my opinion. A small tweak with that Terminator Assault Squad. I'd probably put the Infernal Pistol then on the Vanguard Veteran Sergeant, and the 1 Plasma Inceptor Squad to come in and opportune targets generally sounds quite good as well. So this list, I guess, it falls a little bit heavy on the melee side of stuff, which it's weird to say heavy on the melee side of stuff when Blood Angels are primarily a melee focused force, and we generally do the most of our work in turn 3 beyond when we are engaged in close combat and doing melee. I think the trick to winning games, though, is to technically survive or contest into those final 3 turns, right? Because those final 3 turns are the turns where we get all the Savage Echoes on every unit in the game, and we generally kill enemies much more indiscriminately. So yeah, my thoughts on this list is it feels a little light on the shooting, and if the enemy has some good screens, and I obviously mentioned taking Infiltrators a lot, and I also mentioned that I play against like Space Marines, and I definitely mentioned the Iron Hands quite a bit, and Iron Hands historically have been kind of a nemesis for me. I did do 2 battles back to back against the Iron Hands on the channel live a few weeks ago, and I did win both battles, but the Iron Hands player that game only had one squad of infiltrators. I have played against Iron Hands lists before where all their troops have been infiltrators, making it damn near impossible to deep strike anything against them, right? Like, when you have to do the 12-inch charge, then your deep strike potential is just suddenly very, very limited. And, like a list like this, it feels to me like you do not have enough shooting to kill, for example, a 5-man squad of infiltrators in a single turn and make a hole for deep striking units to join the battlefield, for example. So, I mean, you could get bogged down against that, and I mean, against other armies that are screening really well with, like I said, I play Death Guard, they use Nurglings, there's Nurglings shat everywhere, so you can't get in because of Nurglings. So if you do come up against that, then you might become unstuck a little bit with this, but, yeah, I mean, like, that's just, like, the way I was working it was like I was running one Vanguard Veteran that's a little bit stronger than this, one large Sanguinary Guard, and one medium strength Death Company. So I think, like, if you're running 2 large Sanguinary Guard and a Vanguard Veterans, you almost need to make a call here, like, do you need the Terminators or do you need the Vanguard Veterans? Like, having both is that too... I mean, having both plus 10-man Assault Intercessors as well? Like, I feel like one of those units, as strong as having all this may be, if you get bogged down or you get stuck, or like I said, you won't be able to shift off a unit of infiltrators, then potentially your Terminators can't join the battle where they need to be, or your Sanguinary Guard, or something. So that is my opinion on that. Yeah, you're very true. You can't even charge out of Deep Strike against infiltrators because you have to be more than 12 inches away. So, and I mean, you could probably remove a unit with your Inceptors, but I mean, do you really want your Inceptors to have to be using their sort of like the first turn they arrive, when they shoot all their guns, when they're at full strength, that's their most powerful, that's like your power spike, right? You don't want to have to use that to kill a unit of troops that are like 100 points. If you are doing that, then you're probably not going to be in a strong position for that game. So, let's talk about it then. Like, I guess 2 Incursors and an Infiltrator squad, I said before that's like an 8.5. The fact you have another whole squad of 10 OBSEC units, then it's probably like, I'd probably say like your OBSEC is actually probably like 9.5 here, in that you can hold 3 and you can definitely contest 1. Your characters are great, and your characters will be able to do a lot of work. They're very, very survivable. You have the Priest to heal. I probably would combine these Sanguinary Guard together, but I think we have to mark you down a little bit on anti-horde, because you could come unstuck, like I mentioned. Like, I guess it doesn't just mean like how effective you're going to be against killing hordes. I guess it also means like how effective are you going to get to be at making those charges against those hard to get 2 targets. And I guess you could come a bit unstuck against that. Maybe like anti-infantry though is fine. And again, maybe your anti-monster in raw, in terms of like raw looking at the numbers on the table, then your captain and your chaplain and your 100 odd assault attacks and your Sanguinary Guard can get 5 attacks per, so you get 75 sword attacks doing 2 damage a shot. And you've got some Thunderhammer attacks in here, so I mean, like, can you kill these things? Yeah, I mean, like, you can kill them fine enough, but like, are you going to have problems getting to them? In some battles, I'd say yes. So like, I feel like Respecialization is just down a little bit because of that. And I mean, against some lists, you won't have a problem at all. And maybe against, like, with smart play, you might not have a problem at all as well. But, I mean, against, like, top-end players that are very good at screening you out and making it difficult for you to make charges against their valuable targets, then you have a problem, to a certain extent. Like, I guess if you had to play this list side up against my super heavy tank list, the way that like I would deploy my infiltrators and stuff, like there is no way that you're making a charge on my super heavy tank until about turn 3. Maybe you can make one charge on turn 3, but you won't be able to kill it with whatever you charge it. And maybe then you'll be able to kill it on turn 4. I guess the question is, by turn 4, I've shot 32 las cannons at you, I've shot like 20 volcano cannons at you, and I've shot 45 heavy bolters at you. Like, you know, if your army can tank all that, then great. But like the reason, you know, that list is on an 8-game winning streak, and it's not coincidence that it's on an 8-game winning streak, because my friends know the list, right? Like I said to them last time, like I was playing against the Death Guard, I was like, I am taking a list that beat you last time. Make a list that will beat me, because I want to know the weaknesses of my list. And like the Death Guard player did make a really good list, and it was a really tough fought game, but my list did win again, you know? And it's like I said the exact same thing to my Iron Hands friend, who typically is my nemesis, and it was like, make a list that is going to beat me. And he actually, the same player that played against me with his Iron Hands, he actually has a Sisters list as well, and he brought the Sisters list, and before the battle he actually said to me, like, there is no way you're winning this game, John. And I was like, great, because I want to see my army lose. And guess what? Like, the Sisters battle was on the channel like a few weeks ago. It beat that list as well. So, having a smart player that is going to have some sort of gun line that you cannot penetrate with a list like this could cause you problems. But, I mean, overall, I feel like it's a solid, well thought out Blood Angels list. Your stratagems seemed pretty good. You just may end up coming unstuck against some lists, but overall, and then I guess your mobility in this list is generally pretty great, right? The only thing that I suppose isn't mobile are your Terminators, and I guess your Assault Squad is foot slogging it. But, so, yeah, I mean, like, I think the raw killing, everything in this list is great. The raw killing potential of all the units, but there just is a question mark around smart enemy deployment and play, and also terrain. And I guess the one thing to say about terrain, while we're on that, is in some of the battles that we play, we have terrain purposely quite light. We go from extremes of, like, we have some maps that are very heavy terrain, and we have some maps where the terrain is quite light. And I think if you do that, it gives you a bigger appreciation, and it lets you see strengths and weaknesses and the forces that you wouldn't normally see, like if you kept the terrain the same every battle. Okay. I'd say you need Rites of War and Visage of Death in a list to get over 9, but the list has good troops and 4 units. Yeah, I mean, you're maybe right, but I mean, like, I guess if you've got that extra 10-man squad of troops, then I think you can probably offset. You can out-offset most armies at that point, Highland. A smart player probably wouldn't put stuff in Deep Strike if you have infiltrators on your list. Yeah, I mean, a smart player might not put stuff on Deep Strike if you have infiltrators in your list, Ollie, but then then you have the dilemma of all your units having to jump from cover to cover and try and close the distance across the battlefield, which, again, can be okay on some maps, but on other maps you can actually just end up getting slaughtered by it. You'd have won even easier if you'd remembered to fall back and shoot the falchion at Mortarion. Yeah, I probably would have won even easier if I'd done that. A Spectre Nemesis hard counter would be Harlequins with the mobility and the amount of haywire they carry. Yeah, I mean, I try and screen really, really well with, like with the infiltrators. Usually, like the assault intercessors that I used before, I just literally put them around the tank in a formation, so it was just like you just couldn't get through them to get to the tank. Yeah, I mean, like, I need to get a couple of battles on the channel up against Harlequins, actually. That would be good, for sure. I haven't played Harlequins in about 6 months. The last really fast army I played, I felt like, was Eldar. So I'll see if I can get that arranged. Can you give the priest 1 relic and 1 special issue war gear? Only if he's the warlord. You can only do that on your Warlord, and the stratagem is called Angel's Exemplar Chaos. And food for thought. Used to be the Outriders could clear some space. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. The Outriders could clear some space. Maybe you need 6 of them to really clear some space, but it could definitely be done. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this week, guys. Thank you to everybody for tuning in, and thank you to everybody who submitted a list this week. I guess a good showing kind of from both there, like a good number of lists submitted, and some interesting discussions to be had, and I really appreciate all the comments, and a pretty fun stream. I hope. I haven't really figured out what I was going to be doing on stream this week. I kind of wanted to get a bit more time on this guy. I don't know if I will, though, because we've got a couple of videos to make this week, maybe one on FAQs, and I also want to try and do some sort of improved battle report in the near future, based on the feedback we got. A lot of people liked last week's battle report. So, just the final things to say is, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing. We do Blood Angels content every week, and your support would mean a lot. And if you did enjoy the stream, then please hit that like button. And I hope you all have a very good weekend. What's left of it anyway. We'll be back a couple of times this week for sure with more videos, and probably some hanging out streams. And when you're looking at your next hangout, well, I mean, the way that I do the hangouts is that, like, primarily I work on the videos that I try and release on Tuesdays and Fridays, and then if there's time between them, I do hangouts. So I can't really plan the hangouts because it's hard to know exactly how long the weekly videos will take me. Sometimes they take longer than others. It's just a bit over that. But I'm glad that you guys like the hangouts. I like doing them. I mean, as much as last night was just painting the base coat on the tank, it's just fun to chat and stuff, and hang out and listen to music. I'm really looking forward to fielding this tank sooner rather than later, I guess. And then, you're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed the analysis, Alucard. We will. Okay, so we'll look at doing an FAQ video because that's what you guys want to see, and then we'll try and do another hangout for sure. Saturday night seems like a good night for a hangout, because as much as I need to prepare all my videos, I don't like having to work Saturday night, right? So Saturday night could maybe become the weekly hangout, and then we are going to make Monday night battle night as soon as the next lockdown ends, because Monday night is the night that we always play, and we do have a setup to live stream the games. So there will be a live game every Monday night, probably beginning in February. More news on that as soon as I know when we can reopen our gaming hall for Battle Night. Alright, have a good day, everybody. Stay safe, and we will see you all in the next video. By the blood are we made. Peace. Do you know what? I'm going to sit around here for a few minutes and see if I can figure out how to get that overlay to actually show the chat. But, I mean, the stream is essentially finished. So you just hear me cursing at why... I mean... cursing at why it didn't work. You curse, I'll pour the scotch. Yeah, I mean, it would be cool if we could see the because that way people could watch it, right, when they're. Maybe there's something I'm missing. And pick a font. I think that the text might just be in the wrong. No? Alright, the text just disappeared completely there. Yeah, I mean, I've been to Warhammer World before. I thought it was pretty cool. I think I was there in like 2017. So why is it showing people's names but not? Yeah, I mean, the text seems to. I'm going to delete this layer and try and re-add it. Right.
Right, wait. I think we have something, maybe. Does this thing show mopes then?
Negative.